Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Ariana J, and I am so glad you are here. I believe I say that every episode, but I truly mean it, and that's why I say it. So we're just going to rock with it, okay? I have a very special guest with me today. This guest has kind of kickstarted this whole online coaching and education company that I have. So you guys need to give her major credit for that. We'll talk about what that is in a little bit, but I want to give her a very warm welcome. She has a lot of accolades and everything behind her name. I don't want to get into all of what those are right now. We're going to break it down in this episode, but I want to welcome Rontoya Williams to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here.
We are so glad to have you. Now, we have so much to cover, and I want to get into all of the things. So, first, we need to know a little bit about your background, or the folks need to know a little bit more about your background. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that and share that with us?
Okay, so my background is I'm a CNA. I've been working in the healthcare field since I graduated high school. I love serving. I love providing great service to individuals in need, and so I just that's basically what I've been doing for these last couple of years.
So, you love serving, and you're a nurse, correct?
I'm a actually certified nurse aide.
Okay. So is that how you broke into the industry? Like the whole business of care was big breaking into it as a CNA.
Yeah, I started off as a home care provider, and then I got certified with a certificate with my state, the state of Michigan, and I'm now a licensed CNA.
Okay. Wow. And let's talk about a little bit about where you are now, and then we're gonna bridge that whole gap. So where are you at now? What are you doing now? What does that look like for you as you're so passionate about care?
So currently, I was recently licensed as a home community-based service provider. I have a licensed residential group home. I'm licensed for six, and let's see. Look, do I go deep what I've been into, or do I?
I think we'll get into more of the deep stuff. I don't want you to blow their minds right now. Let's let them listen to a little bit more because I think your story is so interesting. So that's where you're at now. We heard where you started from, and there's been a lot that's happened in between. So this is not your first business in care. Let's go back to that. Like, what was your first business in care, and why did you decide to go that route?
So my first business in care, I opened like during the pandemic, I opened up a home care business. And so, I was doing it for others. I was doing it for other agencies. And I was just like, let me see how to do this. So I got me a mentor and things has just taken off since then. From there, I kind of got curious about that whole group home situation, that whole licensed group home. And I got into the unlicensed method. That has been interesting. I was doing so much work and not getting paid as a license provider that I said, you know what, I'm going to look to see how to get licensed. And then that's when I kind of, seen this Ariana jumping around Facebook talking about this money you can get through providing care. And I'm like, I'm already caring for a bunch of people. How can I tap into this? And so yeah, that's where it all began.
That's where it all began. And Lord Jesus, did it begin right there? But I want to go back to the unlicensed group home. So
Yeah.
talk to people about what that's like. You know what I mean? Because the reason why I want to be very transparent and talk to people about what it looks like is because group home is thrown around, the term is thrown around all over these internet streets, right? All over the interweb. And people don't necessarily understand what it is. So let's talk about what the unlicensed group home, in quotes, I'm doing quotes with my hands, what that is. And then I want to move over to like what the day-to-day and the clientele were like.
Yeah. So my unlicensed group home was providing housing to independent, um, because you had to be independent. There was not a way to legally provide services to you. It's like you had to go around the world to figure out a different way through somebody else's agency or whatever to be able to provide hands-on care. So with the unlicensed, you're just a landlord, really. You're just collecting rent. You're not doing any care.
So
But
you're providing the housing itself. That's what you're doing. You're providing the housing. No services.
no services, but you find that people who have to live in these settings, they need help. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the people that I were getting were hoarders. So who was gonna clean? I would have to go in there and volunteer and clean, so who was paying me for that? No one, and
Right.
then sometimes someone uh couldn't make it to the grocery store. So here I am volunteering services of, oh, let me get you connected to the pantry. Let me help deliver groceries. It was a lot of extra stuff you were doing that was just more than housing that, you borderline could get in trouble. And I actually found myself under investigation doing that. Yep.
So you got into the unlicensed to serve in the way that was easier than getting licensed, right? Because of the rules or regulations. We'll get into that. And then the clientele, really your tenant that was in your home actually needed care. And so you were trying to provide care in your way of volunteering without being compensated for it. And you guys know how I feel about that. So you were trying to help and you found yourself under investigation for trying to help people in need that really needed supported services.
Absolutely. You got to think about it. You're still you're housing mentally ill individuals, and so you have the individuals who are schizophrenic. You have the hoarders. You have substance abuse. Like it was crazy. So having all of those behaviors, all of those personalities in a home, it could get ugly, and it did. And so, I went through the investigation. I knew my laws, I knew my rights. It was scary, I will say that, because it was like um if you get fined, it was like a $75,000 fine, and they can do this to me and do that to me. And so it was a huge report. I beat the case. Um, but that did scare me. And so I took a break.
As it should.
I took a break after that because I knew the end goal, I wanted to be licensed, and I didn't want that to affect me being licensed.
Right. Yeah, that's a scary thing to go through. And with investigations, I do want to put this out there. It's not if, it's when, right? It's not if, it's when. If you're breaking into this industry, just know that you probably will be investigated at some point in your entrepreneurial journey. Don't freak out. We all go through it. If you're doing everything the way you should, you'll be fine.
Yes.
But it happens. So during this time when you had your unlicensed group home, were you able to provide services to them via your non-medical home care agency or your home care agency?
Yes, it was ways around that to be able to provide care. But then things got sticky again. So I was like, you know
Mm,
what? I keep trying
okay.
to beat the system with their own game. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and play ball. Let's
Let's
just
just
go
play
ahead.
ball. I love that. Like let them tell me what I need to do and let me go ahead and do it so I can be on the straight and narrow and get this business open and operating. So I love that. So Rontoya, when you when you've made that decision where you were like, okay, look, I'm going to play ball, I'm going to go the license route. What were some of the things that you were thinking about in your head, like in your mind, as you kind of were thinking this over? Because I'm sure it was a thought process. It wasn't like a snap of a finger. Okay, I'm going to get licensed. Like, what were some of the things that were going on, like in your mindset at that time?
Man, um, how was I gonna do it? How was I gonna get through it? I mean, even before I had signed up for your class, I had already been on this journey. This what they call it, the downward spiral. That was me. But I was determined. I just was like, okay, Lord, let me call this person, let me call that person. And because I didn't know the correct terminology, I wasn't speaking
Mm-hmm.
their language. It was like they could sniff me through and they just, kicked me to the side. I got the runaround. So I was scared, but I was like, I gotta find some help.
Yeah, so you went it on your you went out on your own first and did some research, placed some calls, and the results frustrating. Your life just felt like you were going around in circles. I mean, I hear that from a lot of people, and I felt like that myself too. So, was that kind of how you were feeling? Like you were hitting a brick wall, or you said downward spiral? Like, what was
Yeah,
that like?
that was a roller coaster. That was
Mm.
terrible because I even knew some folks in the industry. They would not share
You mean
anything.
other providers, right?
Other providers, yes, other providers. I just couldn't believe it. And so I just took my time and went through stuff and yeah, so just thinking about like I cried. I'm not gonna even lie. I had to pause for a minute because like I didn't think I was gonna be able to do it. I was
Yeah.
giving up. I was at that point of giving up, like for real, for real.
Yeah. And so often we don't tap into those emotions like when we first started and we first were doing it. And then when we actually do, we're like, oh my God, I actually went through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. So let's from the time that you started on your own, right? Where you were like deciding, I want to do the license thing, and you were actually doing some research on your own, calling the frustrated feeling of feeling like this is never going to work, to the time where you found help, right? What was that timeline? What did that look like at that time?
Oh, it had to be, I think I had started the process 6 months before I had saw your program. Yeah.
Okay.
Remember, I submitted my first license application in December, and I think I purchased your program in July. July was it?
No, December. Remember, you were part of
December?
the original four.
Yeah, right. It was a
Yeah, we're
year.
gonna we're gonna talk we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna
It
talk
was a
about
whole
that.
year.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Don't worry,
Yeah.
we're gonna get into it.
Listen,
Um,
when you put the time frame on stuff, it's like, yeah, it was a year because I submitted in December. They denied me, and then your program came. And you're right, I purchased in December. So yeah,
mm-hmm,
I went a
mm-hmm.
year lost.
You were lost in the sauce. And it's not even funny because when you're in that space, it's a scary space to be in. You're like, nobody's here to help me. And then you see people talking about group home online and you feel like they're going to help you, but they're talking about an independent living or boarding home, right? And you're like, well, that's not it. So you find me. Where did you find me at? Where was it? Because I was a newbie kind of coach coming out online, and I knew how to do all the things, but I didn't have like the fancy branding or any of that. So where was it? Clubhouse or was
You know
it
what? I think two things. I think it was something that was mentioned on Clubhouse, but it was like head on over to my, free Facebook group. And so I was trying to
okay?
hurry up and get to the free stuff. So I had head
And how
on over.
was the free stuff?
Oh, the free stuff was amazing. I'm glad I got in when I got in.
You did. You came in at the ground floor. Oh my gosh. So once you found me, you saw the free content. What was the biggest hang up between what I was saying and teaching versus what you already knew to be true? That's where I want people to really understand, because you are not alone in this way that you felt and thought. And by the way, y'all, Rontoya gave me hell. Okay. I wanted to shut the full operation down. I was like, fuck this. This woman will not leave me alone. But go ahead and tell us what that was. What, you know what I mean?
So okay, you said what was the difference between what I knew and what you were talking about?
Yes. Like, what was that big contrast that you just you were like, look, lady, I know what I'm doing too. I've done some of this research. How is this making sense? Like, how are you doing this? And if you want me to kind of elaborate, because I remember it very vividly.
Well, my biggest thing was the numbers. I thought you was lying. Like when you were showing receipts, I remember calling you out like, how is that possible? Like, what do
Yes.
you mean? I'm like, I know people who are doing this now and they're only getting $2,600 a month per client. You know what I mean? So it was like, who are you serving? Is it seniors? So knowing who to serve, knowing the population you want to serve, knowing what service in Medicaid or Fed funding, like that was the big difference.
That was a big difference.
That was it. It's a
Yeah.
different from private pay. It's a different from state pay. I was like, dang, that's it.
That's it. And it was know your rates.
Yeah.
And it was, I would always say that in the early days of like, know your rates. And now, I mean, I continue to say that too, but I said it a lot there because that was the big contrast where I was able to really kind of compare, look, this is what you're doing. This is, the difference. And most of the time it was the same output, right? It was the same output, but you were being compensated differently because we're teaching people to gain or retain a skill, right? We're goal orientated. So that's the big difference between just a service, right? And a goal, right? And so it was for Rantoya, it was about the rate. She just didn't understand the difference with rates, and I don't understand why this is, and the funding types, and I did show receipts. I made sure because I had to. I had to show the receipts.
Yeah.
So I believe our first, I believe the very first digital course you took from me was a group home masterclass. Do you remember that? And
yes, it was long.
It was too long. It was like 3 hours, and but it was so much information, and I showed you guys so much, and I think that was the biggest eye opener because you were able to see behind the scenes of what these rates were, the manuals, like the different services, and I think that really kind of sparked it for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I was like, dang, she know what she's talking about. I don't know what she's talking about, but I'm gonna find it for my state because I believe her now. I was not. I was real skeptical.
Girl, beyond skeptical. You know how you have one of those, you definitely were not a troll because you were always curious and you always asked a question, and trolls don't do that. They're just blatantly nasty and whatever. But I kind of felt like, man, like this particular woman, she would not stop. And I believe we even spoke on the phone before. I was at the group home. We did, didn't we? We spoke
sure
on the
did.
phone. And Rontoya was still clear. I don't get this. I do not understand. What do you mean the rates?
Listen,
And
I've had coaches before. You was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to be just another coach. I want to show you how to do this, that, and the third if you're ready. So if you're ready, then we can continue. I was like, oh, did she just check me? I don't want to be another coach. What you mean Oh man. But
oh my goodness.
I'm glad I went through it.
I'm so glad you did too. And I think people feel that way a lot though, of I've already had a coach, I've already had a mentor, I've already had somebody. And it's true, I don't want to be another coach or a mentor. I want to lead shoulder by shoulder with you, and I want you to build this successful business because the way I explain it is I'm I'm an agency here. I have my clientele that I serve. I'm known in my state for being a really good provider, but I can't really make impact across state lines, right? There's only so many people I can serve. And so if we want to touch more people, if we want to impact more lives, right, we have to bring other providers up.
Mm-hmm.
So for my mission, for me personally, and why I feel like I'm called to do this, I want you to be successful, right? I don't just want you to pay me invoice and then you just trot along and then I'm just like, bye. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
important for me that you understand not just how to get your clients and get the business and the licensing, but how to be successful and flourish. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
that's so important. When do you feel like you had that light bulb moment? Because you joined the program in December of 20, what was that, 21?
Yep.
You joined the program December 21. And even once you joined, she was the first one to pay y'all in full. Okay. She was part of the original four. But even once you joined the program, and I have a funny story to tell you guys about that too. Mahogany, if you're listening, you'll probably chime in on this one or agree. But when was the light bulb moment? Like when everything started to click, because there is a lot of information and you have to learn all these different parts. So for you, like when did you have that light bulb moment of everything clicking and making sense together?
Once I was able to find my rates, like on paper, that was my big thing. Like we were digging, you were able to help, like a county, like an hour or two away from me, you were able to show me those rates. But I was like, those are not my rates, like that don't mean it's the same. So when you showed me how to Google and how to dig in the manuals and do this and that and the third, and when I saw it, it was just like, oh my gosh,
It was
that's when
on.
it was on. That's when it clicked. Like, this is real. This can happen in my state. Now let's do the work.
Let's do the work. And there
Let's
was a time in there where you were even looking at potentially another state and you were able to find the information for that state too. Remember that?
Arizona. I was like, man, I might have to move. And I was like, well, let me look in this. And with the same tools I used to find the rates for my state, I was able to find for another state. So I just was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yes. Yes. How did the Startup Provider Program help you? What would you say to that question if you were asked that?
Oh, the startup provider program helped me to know the cycle, the journey of my consumers. So I know where it starts, I know where it's at in the middle, and I know where it ends. And so I could never put that together. I never knew the agency or the vehicle, as Coach would say, who was holding, the Fed dollars. It's different in Michigan. And so now I know every agency that hold uh, the Fed funds I need. I know how to get a contract. I know what I need to do. I know what I need to provide. I got
You
it.
know how to negotiate that rate.
Oh, yes. I know how to negotiate a rate. I know how
So
to assess
good.
the client to be able to provide great care. I know what I'm doing, and I have the confidence. Like, I could laugh about it now, but I remember not having the verbiage, and I would say, Coach, like, I rub people the wrong way. How do I say this? And you're like, if you need to email me what you think you want to say, I'll tweak it for you. Say something like this, be a little sweeter. No,
Oh,
Ronto, you don't
yes.
say that at all.
Soften it up a little bit. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, you can it's amazing. You have so much power with your words, but I get it too because you're frustrated. You're like, I know these people are yanking my chain. I
Yeah.
know these people are bullshitting me, right? And so
Mhm.
you get frustrated. But then it's like, okay, you needed a space to be able to come to and say, hey, look, this is how you say it. This is getting the exact same message across,
Yeah.
but in a very tactful way. And it literally got you results practically every time, didn't it?
Every time. Like I used to be like, this girl know her shit. Like, oh my gosh. Like it was crazy. I've never not gotten the answer after I've sent the email, after I did the follow-up phone call. Like, yeah,
Every
it's been
time.
every
Damn.
time. I
I
know,
think I
right?
am good. So when we talk about um what you like most about the startup provider program. It's a very robust program. And I warn everybody before they come in, I'm like, it's a robust program, but you need to know all of these things and we will help you process it. But it's a robust program.
Number one is the 12 plus provider. The
The
12,
12
pretty much
plus
12.
types of care.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That was amazing. So I felt like I can make like a million in each.
Sorry, my nose.
Like I got the tools that if I want to go open up a transportation company, or if I want to, you know, I still have not tapped into community hab. Like I'm over here doing group homes still. So I have other ways to make other streams of income. So that was my biggest thing. Like everybody talk about how to do seven streams of income. I have the tools with your program to be able to do that. Definitely showing me how to get through my manual stuff. That was
Mm-hmm.
that is jibberjash. That my goodness, that is serious. So I appreciate that so much.
And it was on those calls where you kind of brought all your questions and we sorted things out, and then you had the private community to be able to post your links and ask questions and all of those things. And I feel like and I don't know, but I feel like that was a big support because
Oh
you would
yeah,
learn things. You would learn things in the program, you would go research and implement, and then you would come back and be like, okay, this happened and this happened, or I don't understand this, or does this make sense? You know what I mean?
absolutely. But see, the thing that was different for me than others is I actually went into the Facebook group and posted my update hashtag.
Yes.
Like I feel like I got more results because when I was stuck, I wasn't quiet. I was like, I paid my money. Now I have a mentor, I have a coach. Unstuck me, please.
Unstuck me. But I think
Unstuck.
that's an important factor that you mentioned is that
Yeah,
you leaned on that Facebook group to ask
absolutely.
your question. And when I tell y'all she leaned on the group, she leaned real hard on that group. And we
Yeah.
worked through it all. We worked through it. And the what I also love about it, Rontoya, was that you asking your questions helped others, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody is going to ask the questions and show up, right? Everybody has different things going on in their lives. But what's important is that yeah, I'm leading this community, but this community is a collective and we're all leading each other. And so you posting, asking your questions, getting the support is helping the next person who may have a similar question or didn't think of that and was like, oh my gosh, that's so good to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It did. It did. It made others
Yes.
feel comfortable. And then, after I had learned something, I was able to help somebody. I was answering questions like, oh, I got this coach. Girl, yeah, you got to do this, this,
She
and this.
she absolutely was. And as an alumni and junior coach of the program, she's able to answer the questions. I did lean on her too hard. She'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't know that part.
Wait,
Hold up a minute. Dang, I didn't know you got to do all this.
right. I ain't ready.
So that was so funny. So when it came to the point of you actually launching the business, right? How did the program help you with that? Like with the actual, I'm open for business. to the point where you were able to get your first client resident into your home? Like, how did the program help you with that? Because I want to pause and let everybody know that just because you get up and license doesn't mean that's the end of the road. You have to actually bring clients into your home's programs and services so you can generate revenue and you stay out of the red and you're into the black. So how did the program help you with that?
The program walks you through all of that. Like you have a onboarding employee um, part of the program. You have the onboarding for your residents. Like the program walks you through all of that, and everything is, oh my goodness. I like to do stuff old school. Coach will have you all into this computer automations systems.
But you see now how you need that though.
You need as many hands as you can get, and your hands is automations. It definitely is
Automations.
systems.
Yeah.
So having that, I didn't even know that was needed. Like I've seen so many people do it old school, but now I understand why your business is reaching the numbers that it's reaching, because you're doing so much, so you
Mm-hmm.
will be behind if you try to do this business old school. I'm just, it's
It
too
ain't
much
gonna
technology.
work.
It's not. And so I'm having to come out of my shell and learn some things, because I don't want to be left behind at all.
Oh my gosh, you're not gonna be left behind. As long as you stick it with me, you ain't gonna be left behind because
At
we ain't gonna
all.
let that happen. So when you got licensed certified, so just so everybody knows who's listening, Rontoya is licensed and certified. So it's not just a one or the other, and it really does depend on the type of service. And our service that we're talking about today is a Fed funded group home, right? So you have to do licensing through state and certification through the Fed to be approved. Okay. And so with that, there was this gap with licenses, right? You had license and then you had to get certified. So once you were approved, did you already have a client lined up ready to be placed in your home, or was
Yeah.
it a couple months after that? Like, what did that look like?
So I had an agency reach out to me. They knew was a new agency, because I kept, I was marketing, doing my advertising. And so they were willing to give me a client and a contract at the same time, because they were so desperate. And so that's what ended up happening actually with my first client. I got that contract the same day I got him.
Oh my God. And that's
Yeah.
because you were actually marketing, which we teach in the program. We teach the marketing magic method. We teach that as while you're pending approval, you need to be out there marketing. Now, if
Yeah.
you would have waited until your certification was approval or approved, you wouldn't have had that client right then.
Yeah. They wouldn't have known about me.
They wouldn't have known.
Yep. It would have took a while.
Wow. So, Montoya, here on this podcast and in my world, you know that I like to talk numbers, right? Because I believe, yes, we make impact, but we make income, and every business needs to have revenue. So, two things, if you don't mind. Are you able to tell us the rate of the very first placement that you had? And then the second thing I want to know, if you will share with us, is what is the projected revenue that your home will bring in?
So my first consumer, my per diem was 276. And so when
Per
I had
day.
per day, and when I
Okay.
had added that up for the year, I think it's 100,000 a year. Mind you, I'm licensed for 6. So
What?
100,000 times 6, that's just 600,000, just over 500,000.
Just easy breezy.
Easy.
I love it. And what I love is that the rates there in Michigan. Now Michigan can be a beast. We're going to talk we'll get into that later or on another episode. But you were able to negotiate your rate. So not every resident or consumer down there, not every consumer comes in at that same rate. It's based off the individual needs, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Wow. So baseline, if the individual or consumer comes in at the baseline rate that you had mentioned previously, it would be about 600K a year. off
Yeah.
of that home providing a service. And if
Yeah.
the rate was higher, then that revenue baseline goes up.
Yes, you got it.
Oh my gosh. Like that's life altering. That's life changing.
Yes, it absolutely is.
So where are
Absolutely.
you at right now with your revenue? And I know you're going to fill your home totally up, but where are you at right now with your monthly?
So right now I'm at my half mark. I
Okay.
have three consumers and I have one pending because I'm negotiating rates right now.
So
Um,
good.
yeah. So you know what? I have not sat down and did my numbers for the year to see. But let's see, monthly, we're at about 18, 20,000. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Because
I
you
love
got
it.
the per diem plus you have to include the monthly rent that you charge,
Right. Your room and board.
your room and board. So, yep,
So for
that's what.
people who are like, wait a minute, what did they just say? Let me break it down to you. For traditional licensed assisted living, that's typically just private pay or state funded, right? Private pay, you could probably do anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 a month. And when I say $10,000 a month for private pay, you need to have a very nice luxury facility. Okay. And when we're talking about state funded, you're looking anywhere from $30 to $70 per day, maybe 90 per day, maybe. We're talking about Fed funded dollars here for a residential home, whether it's traditional licenses to living, private pay, all of those things. It's the same home, right? It's the same building, it's the same home, it's the same structure, but your revenue is at 600,000
Yeah,
versus a lot lower for the same
yeah,
amount of clients.
absolutely.
That is just bananas, and I love talking about it because it's like life altering. So where are you at now? Like where are you at now with the direction of things and where they're going? Because I think that you're really in a space to dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So right now, because I'm at my half mark, I am focused on marketing, getting the word out there to fill the rest of my beds.
Yeah.
Um, and then after that, I think I might, you know, look
You
into,
might
I
what?
might look into getting a second property.
Oh my,
Absolutely.
and then you'll double it.
And double it.
And that's how you get to the seven figures. You guys, it's
Absolutely.
just that simple. It's just that you just double it. You know the path to get there, and then you just double it. And then
Yeah,
the other thing we're going to do is implement those systems so
yeah,
that Miss Rontoya Williams can be like the CEO, and she can have this amazing view of her services, of the care that her care team is providing to the residents. And she doesn't have to always be there. We're going to get her set up. Trust me, I tried to get her set up before, but I think she saw the light now. So I think she's ready at that space, because when I tell you my back end systems run smooth as peanut butter, I mean it. So she's going to get there. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But the thing that I want to ask, two things that I want to ask before we go ahead and wrap up this episode. What would you say to somebody who's on the fence, or somebody who's not necessarily on the fence, but they've been wanting to do this for so long? Like what do you say to them, being that you've been there and you've done it?
Mm. I would say if you're ready to pull the trigger, if you're ready to find out the information and act on it, this is hands down the program for you. But if you just want to dibble and dabble, you're not really sure, um, I would just say, stick close, chime in on the lives, let it feed you a little more information. But when you're ready to bite, I would say purchase the program. ASAP. You will not be disappointed. You will not.
Yay, so good. And I love that where you're like, only if you're ready.
Yeah.
Only if you're ready, because it feeds into the mission. The mission is not sell a million courses and programs to make all the money in the world. Like, that's not what it is. It's literally, I want you to go out and be a provider. And I think that's the difference between other people on the market and me, is that I genuinely care. And I'm so grateful that you are a student that came in and you did the work. And I am not the most easiest coach to deal with. I can be a little bit spicy, and my students know that, but they know that before they join the program. But you have to be real and honest with yourself. And that's what you need to get through this process, because it's a journey, right? And I'm sure you would agree with that too.
Absolutely. It's definitely a journey.
It is a journey. And what would be the greatest piece of advice you can give somebody that is ready to pull the trigger, right? We already talked about like the investment and what that could be. But what is the biggest mindset piece of advice you can give them? Because this journey went up and down and around mountains and all the things, right? So what could you say, or what do you want to say to that person who's ready to pull the trigger, but you're like, okay, friend, let me tell you this one thing real quick.
Mhm. That remember your why is really, really, it's so cliche. It's so cliche. I'm
Mhm.
gonna say that. But it's very important. It's very important because you're gonna go through a lot. Like I haven't even told my story of all that I've been through. So y'all gonna have to hear that on the next podcast. But
Yes.
I've been there. I've been up, I've been down, I've been discouraged, but I stuck with it because my why was so important to me. I wanted a licensed group home. And so I stuck with it until I was licensed and certified. And I am so glad I did it. Had I gave up, I would not be able to smile and celebrate this now had I gave up. Here
Right.
we are. I'm good. I'm ready
She's
to elevate.
Ooh, let's elevate. Yes, I love that, Rontoya. And I say this to you and I've said it to you so many times, but I am so incredibly proud of you. I'm so incredibly proud that you've stuck it out, because it's not an easy road, right? But I'm also incredibly proud at your growth. Okay. Because the Rontoya y'all see today is not the one you would see 2 years ago. She has totally evolved, right? And in a way that it's beautiful to watch. It's beautiful to see you stepping into this role, right, of an agency owner, even though you have your other businesses that you've had, but it's on a different level. And um, I just think it's a really beautiful story, because I get to see the full thing, to see you transform in that way for the better. And I can just see, like, of course I would get a notification in the middle of this, but I can just see the growth, and I'm so incredibly proud. And this time next year, oh my god,
Oh my goodness.
oh
I
my
First
goodness.
of all, I gotta come back to Alaska to celebrate because that's
you
where
know I might have to do a retreat again or something. We'll have to do something. I don't know, people keep talking to me about the retreat. I've We got to do something, because literally in a year from now, you've planted the seed of the second home. By the end of the year, I'm very confident that you can have your next 2 to 3 residents or consumers in your home, and the sky's not even the limit for you. So
it's only the
continue to, what was that?
I said the sky is not the limit, it's only the view.
It's only the view. Yes. Well, continue to be great. Continue to pour into yourself. Remember, self-care is not just getting your hair done and nails done and a massage. It is more than that. And so your team is blessed to have you. Your consumers are blessed to have you. And I can't wait to see all that you do.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you so much. Couldn't have
You're
done it
very
without you.
you're very welcome, and thanks for coming on the podcast. You'll definitely be on again, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.